Adtech moves fast. Yesterday's innovation is today's warm-up act. Welcome to Legends of Adtech, the podcast where we go beyond the buzzwords and straight to the people at the cold face of digital adtech. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with the industry's boldest thinkers, pioneers and disruptors to find out how they're rewriting the game. This is their story.
Welcome back to Legends of Adtech, the podcast where we dig deep with the leaders who are driving real change. I'm Julia Linehan, founder and CEO of The Digital Voice.
And I'm Casey Pass. This season, we're spotlighting 6 winners of The Wire's AdTech Personality of the Year. And today's guest is someone who's not just ahead of the curve, she's redrawing it.
We're talking, of course, about the brilliant Karen Eccles, Chief Commercial Officer at the Telegraph, Chair of the AOP, and one of the most influential commercial voices in digital publishing today, and a brilliant person, one of my favourite people too.
Yes. From licensing to commerce to digital transformation, Karen's leadership touches every corner of modern media. She's helped future-proof the Telegraph and unite the industry through collaboration at Ozone and the AOP.
So in this episode, we're going to do our best in a short space of time to unpack what it really means to be a front runner in the industry. But enough from us. Karen, welcome to Legends of Adtech.
Welcome.
Hello. Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I think you're talking about someone else, though.
Will you stop it? Stop it. No, all those things are very true. But we always start and make our lovely guest life a tiny bit difficult by trying to get you to say in 60 seconds or less, tell us who you are and how you got here.
Well, I'll have a go at that. So 2 stages of my career, I would say. I started out in the mid to late 90s working in classified ad sales, fell into media sales having absolutely no idea what it was at all. I really wanted to work at JWT, managing a sort of massive BMW account or something like that. But anyway, I worked my way through, first of all, Dennis, and then at Centaur, classified sales, display sales and B2B titles, and then left Centaur as a publisher, which was really interesting, getting into the sort of business side of the titles, I suppose. But at that time, there was a lot of snobbery between B2B and consumer. We have different types of it now. So I wanted to be able to work in consumer press. And I went to specialist mags for a couple of years and then had my first stint at a news brand with the Mail on Sunday. And I worked first of all in client sales and then on the agency trading side, and then left there to go and head up agency sales at Classic FM. So that was the first stage of my career. But then I met and fell in love with a big silly German who I'm still married to on a ski holiday in Austria, and ended up going and living in Germany for 7 years. We got married, we had 3 kids, and I did a lot of freelancing, especially for friends of mine in publishing who'd started moving over into ad tech and digital. And that eventually led to, when we came back to London in 2015, me being commercial director at Innovid, so an ad tech company, and realising that at that point that what I really loved was the job of transformation. And then I joined the Telegraph, where I am now, digital trading director, end of 2017, just as the Telegraph was moving into subs first. So my job became figuring out how to do commercial well in a subs business and gradually taking on more of the commercial org to bring me up to date to being Chief Commercial Officer now. That was probably about 15 minutes. I am sorry.
Wow.
But I'll tell you what, there was no way you were going to pack all of your career.
No.
So you are excused, because that's just brilliant. And we're going to touch on, there's a few things in there that I'm going to come on to a bit later, I think. But I know, Casey, you wanted to hit Karen straight away with a question.
What an incredible achievement list you've got there of just a stacked resume of all the work that you've put in. And like we said in our intro, you're redrawing the curve for transformation in our industry. So I'm curious to know, how do you stay ahead to call yourself multi-award winning, and how do you continue to just win so big?
I think the calling ourselves or myself multi-award winning is obviously because of the industry awards we've been able to win here at the Telegraph. And they were important because we were trying to find, new ways forward, I suppose, new ways of, as a commercial team, of behaving, of innovating, of bringing products to market that were genuinely aligned with a subs brand and a journalism brand and not presenting friction. So it was very important to prove internally that these things were market leading, credible, were endorsed, was the right way of doing things, but also with a much smaller team and with new products in market, being able to prove to the industry that these were the right outcomes, that they worked, and that even though we were a much smaller team than the Telegraph was maybe 10 years ago, that we could have a high impact. So it's kind of a bit like a Pac-Man, kind of gathering, endorsements and proof points along the way, and being able to establish ourselves as credibly setting out an alternative way of doing things. And I think that there's not much more you can do with a very small marketing budget and a relatively small team in terms of resource, as being able to give ourselves, kind of the air cover of having awards to anchor ourselves to and to kind of use as amplification. So that's been important. And then also, and we might come on to this later, but I had a 7-year maternity gap. I had a very kind of, wallpapered over LinkedIn and CV at one point. And to be able to come back from a more traditional media career straight into ad tech and digital, you need, perhaps personally in the way you feel about it, but also in terms of the credibility of your CV, to say it's not just me saying I think I have impact, I think I can be valuable or contribute, but also sort of here's some things some other people said. And at the time, I think when we first started entering awards, I was kind of like, dare we, could we be, even to get the practice of writing entries, whereas now, sort of having that air cover for everyone personally, but also for the brand, has just, sort of enabled us to have a larger voice, I think.
I think as well, I mean, congrats, by the way, on the recent AOP wins. And what I love is it's all the team. It's the win, the teams. I mean, you yourself are AdTech Personality of the Year, but you don't shout as much about that as you do about the others. So I think it shows that you have heart in the team. And I think when you said focus on the fact if you're a small team, it doesn't mean you can't pack a punch. So I think that's really important. I've given a takeaway away in the first minute. Now I've got to ask you, because when you were doing your 60-second and you mentioned Dennis and Centaur, and as you know, I'm also Dennis alumni, as a lot of us are. And a lot of us have come down that traditional publishing route and through it. But would you say your career path has been more linear and traditional than squiggly? Or would you say actually you can see through it that it's had publishing at the heart, even if it's around ad tech? You've taken parts that have worked well. But is there anything in your past that you wish a route you hadn't gone down? So I'm hitting it the other way, really.
At the time, at several points, I've had regrets, but looking back with hindsight, not at all in terms of any moves, but the learning I'd point to is one role much earlier in my career, in that first stage, where I wasn't enjoying it, where I lost my confidence. It kind of, created a lot of anxiety, and actually I should have left. So I think the kind of knowing when you've made a move that doesn't suit you. I think the squiggly nature of things is very, very helpful, because you add, just more, knowledge and different perspective to your sort of armory of what you can bring to future roles. But staying somewhere where you're really not happy and it's starting to erode yourself and you're losing faith in yourself. I won't name it, but there is one role that, as soon as I was out, I was kind of, why did I stay doing that?
It's the know when to go is as important as when to stay. So interesting.
If it's undermining your sense of self and your confidence, then that's the time to get out and make a move, for sure.
Yeah, amazing. I want to shift gears slightly with my next question as well. Going back to Julia's point about sort of always had publishing at the heart of a lot of your career, you also sit at the crossroads of ad tech and newspapers. How do you make it work across industries?
That's a really interesting question. And in my past, because I've worked at the company that is now global, so the classic FM and digital stations, as well as doing my stint at a MarTech platform. So I suppose I have a particular love of news brands and newsrooms. There's a sort of, energy and pulse about it. And I think, sort of the crux of the importance of journalism, that, we all believe in, I think, that's really attractive and compelling to me. But actually, I'd say it's the kind of communications industry and how that all hangs together and the sort of strategy about the business that's the thread for me. So working for an ad tech business was really helpful coming back into this side of the fence, because I understood what was really happening in other areas of the ecosystem, and I understood the ways that as an ad tech business you're trying to sort of sit between the demand and supply side and the pressures that are there, but also some of the limitations you have. You might sort of, in an ad tech business, the one I was in, you can see some of the bad practices that are happening in your sector, but you're not responsible for them, and it's not necessarily what your company's doing. But it definitely kind of opened my eyes to some things that have been very helpful to me when I came back to publishing. And I wouldn't say I'm necessarily tethered to publishing or news brands. It's that piece about the communications industry and how you, in a commercial role, sort of help support the funding of it and understand the integrity that works between the sort of product in terms of content or journalism and your readers or listeners or, viewers. I mean, I think we'll get to a point soon where publishing and content businesses will be so multimodal. It's, they are, video and audio and, website and app and podcast, all of these things will be happening within brands. But it's about the connection with the audience, the integrity of your relationship with them, and then the commercial opportunities that you can bring. And to me, working in different parts of the industry just helps you do that better, because you understand how sort of everything interlocks, and you're maybe less in the weeds of the particular sector you're in and more able to think about the strategy and what's next a little bit better.
Yeah, keeping the audience at the heart of everything across both is so important. And on top of this, all of your incredible achievements, something we also really admire about you is your openness with your neurodivergence. So I'm curious to know, when has it helped, or when have you had times where it's maybe hindered you? And do you feel the industry is supportive enough? Is there enough awareness around it?
My personal views, and I may be wrong, but I think there are a lot of, we're not supposed to say high functioning or high performing neurodivergent people, but as a shorthand, that in the industry, because we've all been sort of attracted to it and each other. I kind of think of it as differently wired, and I hope at some point in the future that will be the understanding that there are certain people who are wired, sort of mentally, this way, and many of the systems that we work in were set up with that way of thinking. And then neurodivergent people are just slightly differently wired, with different preferences and needs or obstacles, which we all have as humans. And sometimes you need the system to, work a little bit differently in order to sort of function at your best. So I think this industry, attracts different kinds of thinkers anyway. And then this is something that I've only been aware of in the last 18 months via going through a journey with one of my children, turns out two of my children, turns out most of my cousins' children. And I'm now sort of looking around my family going, I always knew we were like really lovely, extended family, lovely people, trying very hard to fit in, but always a little bit like we were watching how do you, is this right, is this how you do it, is this how we're supposed to say things, always a slight feeling of masking, of kind of just maybe doing things sort of through the mirror, sort of backwards, rather than everything naturally being easy. But it's so through that exploration and me ending up having a conversation with a psychiatrist basically that said, I've been telling my eldest all this time that everyone feels like that. Are you telling me? And he was like, uh-huh. I was kind of, not everyone feels like this. And he was like, not everyone, no. And I was like, so, and he was like, yes. Okay. So I thought we were all, sort of not talking about the fact that we all feel this way. actually, a lot of people feel like that, but not everyone. So that then sort of led to me going on my own journey of discovery and understanding a lot more about myself. And there's been immediate things that have helped. So, for example, I take a daily medication for ADHD and almost immediately stopped needing to do all of my focus work between, midnight and 3 a.m, which was my sort of quiet secret before. I used scheduled send rather too much. But now I understand my hyper focus means that I need blocks of time, I need quiet. But then when I get into something, I just want to produce almost the perfect finished result. And so if I can just lock myself away, get something done, then that's a really productive use of my time. And because I wasn't allowing that in my daytimes previously, the only time that was available to me, and because I don't need a lot of sleep, was the small hours of the morning. It's not incredibly healthy.
I've got to be honest, Karen, I was doing the same, and I think I admitted it to the team last year, and I was getting up every day and secretly starting at 4:30, but I was scheduled sending, and I was like, I just felt buzzing, like absolutely wired, and thought that was a good thing. But I totally agree. You've got to take your time out that day. So are you doing that now? Are you actually saying, this is my block, this is my time?
I'm doing that now, but it almost organically stopped last year. So every now and then I might do that, but it's a choice because I want to get something done, or I'm kind of in the zone, and I'm sort of, if I do this now, I can get done in a couple of hours. It might take me a day to get, my head around something again next week. So that's been helpful. And I think just the self-awareness of giving yourself permission, understanding how you work, and not beating yourself up about things that are harder. So I have got a couple of things going on with me in terms of the neurodiversity. And as an example, I love ideas, change. I can tend to be able to see things with a lot of clarity that I now understand. But you have to bring people on the journey. You have to explain and, not just point it out and expect everyone else to see it. So understanding that, but also I have that aspect of myself. I love variety, change lots of people, but also get really overwhelmed. I'm actually quite an introvert. I do a lot of panels for conferences because it can be easier for me to stand on a stage and mask and do that than walk into a room and network, which can fill me with the fear of I'm going to say the wrong thing, I'm really stupid, I don't know anybody, I'm just going to put my foot in my mouth, I'm totally socially awkward. So understanding, that's why I tend to gravitate to speaking actually sometimes can be easier for me. And then that explained why you guys have just come back from Cannes. I used to go to Cannes, love it. It was the best time of my year, but also have more angst and anxiety and also kind of depression than I ever could understand. And I kept it to myself. And now I know it was just overwhelming and I needed to block out quiet times and just manage that and understand this is a natural reaction. It's okay. So plan your time accordingly because you know that, and then it's all right. But even just not coming home going, what's wrong with me? Just going, I know what it is. It's fine.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, it's funny, not funny, but there's neurodiverse chat in Adtech. There's a really good WhatsApp support for anybody else out there who wants to join. And do you remember, Karen, I put on there, well, I'm just me, so I just think I'm me. And you went, no, we're claiming you as one of us. So now I can claim myself as differently wired. And I know last year I came back feeling the same way, going, I didn't enjoy that at all. And I had not factored in any time to decompress. And I'm a bit like you, I'll get on stage and do emceeing and moderating and absolutely love it.
And you love it. You're brilliant at it.
Yeah, but it's so weird. But now I know that, like with the team, I need just half an hour. I have to decompress and then I go again. But also I've learned to just step back and go, actually, I understand my limits. So I'm one of the people that does an Irish goodbye and just goes when I want to go, when it's reached that point. And I've come back and actually feel really good about it, that I got that balance right. And I think just a question on that is I think we're getting there. And I love the fact of that differently wired, and hopefully that will become grow in a way of describing it. I mean, everybody I know that's neurodivergent has incredible superpowers. Is there anything still, just one piece of advice maybe that either companies can use or the industry needs to do to just make the process easier, simpler, smoother for people?
I think understanding, so getting the best out of neurodivergent people for one thing, and I'll give another answer in a moment because it's a bit of a cop out, but understanding that it impacts people in such different ways that just asking, what would help,
Yeah.
what would make things easier, what can we do? Because any answer I give now to you is obviously personal to me, and maybe what I found connects with other people that I'm similar to, but it might be completely the wrong answer for sort of somebody else sitting out in our office. I think understanding very common aspects like hyperfocus and the sort of a different ebb and flow of work. So quite often neurodiverse people in the office will find it harder to have, there's half an hour for a deck in between, sort of a client call and a meeting on such and such. And then if you just go into the deck and kind of put those thoughts down that you've said and then come back out and do this. So understanding people might need to block their time differently. So we have almost like an extrovert, sort of morning of doing all the externals and blocking meetings together. But then we might need, here's a couple of hours where we can really get into something, and then that flow isn't interrupted. So I was thinking about kind of working in sprints and hyper focus, but just on the I was part of the sale process for the Telegraph. I had the opportunity to work quite closely with a merchant bank that was involved in the sale last year, and realised a very different business to any that I've been involved in. But I was fascinated because they work in these very detailed, in-depth, I'm saying sprints, but they might go on for weeks or maybe months in terms of the sale of the company. But the way the projects and stages are worked within that is incredibly intense. And they were sending pieces of work at 2 or 3 in the morning, unapologetic.
Oh,
And I was kind of like, I think you might be my people.
oh yeah, yeah.
Selling something and putting together a strategy, but actually working in a way that was like, it might be over weekends, it might be very late, but then I hope there would be downtime afterwards. And I was sort of in that industry, because of the nature of the business they're doing, that is very acceptable and actually expected. So, we might take some practices from other places like that and say it's just, a way of being responsive to the needs of the business, but also brains that need to be able to dwell and can't switch between tasks very quickly. But if you just make that space, then you'll really get the most out of people who are able to produce something brilliant if their day is structured the way they need it to be.
So helpful. I love that. Me and Julia have both talked about at length before, haven't we? Undiagnosed, but we know there's a little something spicy going on either way.
Yeah, we're a little bit spice.
Yeah. You've also been a massive ambassador just across the industry in general, Karen. So we'd also like to know, where do you find the time, A, and what is the value to you of giving back to the industry?
Where do I find the time? I don't feel like I do. I feel like I'm always, there's always so much more I could do. I worry that I'm letting people down or not doing enough. I suppose it's partly, for example, I sit on the board of Ozone because Telegraph's a shareholder, but that's with the other shareholders, the other major news brands. So we're there with Reach, News International, and The Guardian. So that is a space where we can talk about Ozone is the absolute convergence of ad tech and the news and publishing industries. So it's time, but it's also, intrinsic to our business, to our people, to what's happening. So, and then ditto for the AOP, that is the place where all online publishers, whether they're, mag brands like Immediate Media or news brands, it's the place where everything digital for publishing comes together, and therefore understanding the challenges or opportunities that we see in context of the rest of the industry. I feel like these are shortcuts that help me do my day job, and also where we have space to sort of share and ask questions to each other and know each other, which is what's in common with all of the sort of, I suppose, extracurricular stuff I do, including any panels or speaking, anything like that. It's just a great way of contacting the rest of the industry very quickly and educating yourself and understanding which things are maybe just quite minor and sort of transitory here for us, and which things are longer sort of foundational structural trends that we need to be thinking about. So I suppose it's very, the answer is it's very enriching for what I do for my day job as well.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, my view, you got to put in, you got to get, the more you put in, the more you get out. So I'm 100% behind you on that. We're coming to the last few minutes of this, and we wanted to move into, we always try and do this because you have the knowledge and the foresight. You mentioned it of being able to see ahead. So on the spot, Karen, how do you spot trends before they happen?
I think it's curiosity. I mean, going back to the neurodiversity, I was wondering what my current special interest is. Like, what is my obsessive subject? And it's my job. I think about it all the time. I wake up thinking about things in the morning. So there's a natural, real curiosity and a feeling of there's so much change, so much to know, and just trying to be as informed as possible. And then you can see, connections emerging. So I think whatever role anyone's in, if you can try and lift your head up and understand what's happening at counterpart companies, at technology businesses, and just start trying to educate yourself as much as possible and see the connections. You will never be finished. It's like sweeping sand off the beach, but it helps you to kind of start asking the right questions, I think. So curiosity, being informed, asking the right questions, and you will very rarely have the answers or have them quickly. But then if you can start posing them to the people internally, to the partners that you meet, to things like the forums I've spoken about at the AOP, then you can start thinking about the right questions for what's going to be happening in 6 months' time, a year's time. What do we need to be ready for? And I think that's critical. Anyone who doesn't have curiosity at the moment and sort of just trying to get a handle on as much as they can about change is going to be limiting themselves. So to definitely make time and space for that.
Amazing. Stay curious. Love it. Before we head into our rapid fire round, one final question. What do you see as the future of the newspaper industry?
I was thinking about it as a news brand industry, and people will continue to read papers. Certainly, generations, cohorts will want to do that. We have the open web, we have apps, but we are in video, we are in podcasting. So I think the platform itself is just the delivery mechanism. And that applies, I hope, in the future that we want to build with AI search and those platforms as well, that they should just be the delivery mechanism. What's really important in the next stage of technology and how it impacts the news industry is the concept of journalism and regulated, fact-checked, accountable journalism, and holding power to account. And expertise that's unbiased, looking at, and I mean across the industry, that you have a spectrum of left and right being available, that is looking at the whys and the what next in the analysis. So that has to be available in order to be present via AI powered search. If it wasn't, then there'd be a massive race to the bottom. So in terms of what's actually fueling the information that's to be found on the platforms. So I think us being ready for that, and big technology acknowledging and valuing journalism and content creators, copyright and IP rights, that's going to be critical. And as long as that's respected and we're ready for it, and big tech is working with us reasonably, then so we've got a very healthy future.
Love it.
I think so too. And this is not a kiss ass. I am a Telegraph subscriber, so just
thank you very much.
So right, you've got the last few. We are my iconic, legendary quick fire round. You've got to answer these questions in one sentence or one word. So this is a tough for anybody. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Your favorite ad campaign ever?
Apple. Here's to the crazy ones.
Oh, nice. Good choice. Most inspiring person you've worked with?
A woman called Mary Kate O'Flanagan, who was my first boss at Creative Review, crossed from ad sales into journalism and then writing film and TV scripts, and is now doing a one-woman show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this summer.
Oh, wow.
Go and see it at Edinburgh Fringe. It's brilliant. It's called Making a Show of Myself.
We'll go stalk afterwards. One thing you'd change about the industry if you could snap your fingers?
Protecting copyright and content creators' IP right now.
Love that. One bit of ad tech that is a must in a publisher's ad tech stack, and one you'd throw out.
The ad server is critical to us, and I would throw out blanket brand safety that's been constructed for the long tail, which quality publishers don't need. So be gone with that.
Interesting, with my brand safety hat, I'm now making a note of that one. Final one in the quick fire round. Who's your ad tech legend, and who would you love to see on Legends of Adtech podcast in the future? It could be the same, it could be different.
I'm tempted to choose my own Gareth Cross, our digital director on my team, but that might be slightly cheating. The first name that comes to mind always for me, Lara Islan at ITV. I absolutely love her, and she's such a genius, and she doesn't really know. But she's a wonderful human as well. So Lara.
Oh, shout out to Lara and Gareth.
Brilliant. Those are good choices. Well done, Karen. You survived the quick fire round and our session today as well. It's been brilliant. So many nuggets have come out there. A couple of things I really love saying is it's about start by educating yourself, be curious, ask the right questions. What you put in is what you get out. Community is key, whether that be in ad tech groups about supporting on neurodivergent or whether it's about within the industry groups, they are important. And look out for multimodal publishers and brands are going to start thinking about how they connect with audiences far more, and that integrity with the audience is going to be key.
Amazing. Thank you for all those amazing insights, Karen. And thank you so much for joining us today. That is a wrap on this episode of Legends of Adtech, but be sure to check out the description for ways to connect with Karen.
For me as well, thank you to you, Karen. I think it's about showing us what it means to lead and innovate and set the pace. We're never going to stop evolving, and you're a true legend. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you're wondering what just happened or what is happening in AdTech, head over to our brand new website, adtechjuice.com, for your fix of jargon-busting content, a little helping hand to decode what's going on in the industry.
If you loved today's conversation, please rate, review, and share the episode. It helps us keep the AdTech wisdom flowing, and hit that follow button so you don't miss a single legend. Until next time, keep it juicy.
You've been listening to Legends of Adtech, a podcast by AdTech Juice. New episodes drop every 2 weeks, bringing you closer to the pioneers, disruptors, and game changers shaping the future of digital advertising. Stay connected at adtechjuice.com and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn for even more industry know-how.